Hi, my name's Jennie Cashman Wilson and I'm the founder of Abram Wilson, the charity. In this video, we're going to be exploring how musicians make money. You can make money in music, but it's not easy. We believe that you need to have a vision for what you want to do first. A vision is about knowing what kind of artistry you want to put out there and then building a business around it. Now we're going to hear from Bolza. Fred has 20 years of experience working in the music industry. He's had senior roles at the PRS and Sony Music, and he now runs his own company, New Soil. Fred is also a trustee of Abram Wilson, the charity, and he has been intrinsic in helping us to grow our career development program. So let's hear what he has to say.
The reason it's important to have a vision is that it gives you a destination to point towards. It gives you a sense of the kind of person, the kind of artist or musician that you want to be, how you see yourself in the future, and therefore also gives you an idea of the pathways that you might take to get there. Luckily, there is a tool, and funnily enough, it is in fact called visioning, in which you place yourself in the future and you imagine how you got there from where you are today. So to give you an example of a visioning exercise, let's imagine that I'm Fred and I'm an artist. And let's imagine that we're 5 years in the future. Right? So I'm being interviewed by Rolling Stone magazine, and I'm on the cover because I've won a Brit, I've been nominated for 3 Grammys, and I'm about to embark on my first world tour. And so the interviewer is asking me, how did I achieve all of these things? And I'm saying, well, I started out by self-releasing a record, which caught the attention of a small independent label that gave me my first deal, and I did a UK and European tour to support it. Off the back of that, I was able to get signed to a major label, do a US tour, and now I'm preparing my first world tour after winning the plaudits and recognition from the industry. So that's an example of how I got there. You're coming back to the present from the future, and you're marking out some key things that you did to get there, and that becomes a way for you to understand the kinds of things that are going to be important to your pathway towards your career. It's often a bit difficult, particularly for creative people, to think about money in the same breath as the evolution of your artistry in your career. However, if you think about it slightly differently, less about how you earn money and more about the kinds of investments that are going to be required for you to be able to build and sustain a career over time, that then becomes a lot more easy for you to be able to think about. So it's really about thinking about what are the things I need to do that are going to bring investment in and allow me to fulfill the vision that I've just spent some time trying to elaborate. So now that you've got your vision, there's a number of areas or sources of revenue that you might want to consider. So for many artists, the core foundations of the career is playing live, whether that's a pub or a larger venue or a stadium. And the reason it's important is twofold. One, because it's ready money, and two, because it's where you're going to build your fan base. The importance of recorded music is that it is how your music gets heard, and therefore that's also going to be a very key part of how you build an audience as well as how you make money, whether that's through streaming, downloads, vinyl, or what have you. It is the core bit, it's your calling card, it's the thing that people are going to listen to and keep. Publishing is important because it's not about the recording, it's about the songs and the compositions themselves. So on some level, if you are writing for yourself or for others, it is good to consider how you might be able to create an earning stream out of that part of your ability. In some cases, commissions are a really good way to build a revenue stream. Typically, the kind of artist that will receive commissions or can apply for commissions is someone who is primarily a composer and an author of music, so who can write to a brief. And a commission is basically that. Someone wants you to write a piece of music, they want to pay you to write that piece of music, and then you write that piece of music. For many musicians, taking the path of teaching music to others is a very good way of supplementing the income that comes from the other areas of their practice. That could be teaching individual students privately, that could be teaching at a school or at a college, or that could be embarking on various programs in and around schools. The only thing I would say about that, and it is quite important, is if you're going to do it, you do need to be committed. It is a bit of a vocation. It can't just be done purely to earn on the side, because you are having a profound impact on young people's lives. Increasingly, you will hear about people who are self-funding or crowdfunding as a term. This is a relatively new concept and effectively draws in from some of the other things that we've talked about, which is effectively going out to a bunch of people, a marketplace of people, and asking them to give you some money so that you can make a piece of work. And in return, you give them something, whether that is a first listen to the recording, an invitation to the studio, or whatever. This can be a really great way of generating a revenue and investment for yourself, but it carries with it a great responsibility, because the moment that you have asked someone for their money and they've given it to you, you need to deliver to them. So it's, again, not something to be embarked on lightly. The important takeaway is it's really important to have a holistic vision that originates from your sense of self and the artist that you want to be, and then works outwards towards it. Now, obviously, we've covered a lot of ground quite quickly, so it is important for you to remember and to keep reminding yourself that there isn't a single pathway. You don't have to do all of these things. Some things may be right for you, some things may not be, and some things may become right later in time. Stay true to your ideas, be consequent about the creative direction that you've set for yourself, and you won't go far wrong. So next, we're going to listen to talented pianist Ashley Henry, who's going to tell us a bit about how he's made money through music.
Hi, my name is Ashley Henry. I'm a jazz musician, songwriter, producer, and I managed to make money in these variety of ways. My love for being a good collaborator kind of evolved into doing session work. That involves not just, doing gigs, but doing promos, radio shows, and all these other things. I've done a whole bunch of different things with different clothing brands, eyewear brands, car brands. They like what I do, so they reach out and feel like my whole ethos with my music coincides with what they're trying to do with their brand. I do different songwriting with different artists and produce for different artists. If you're playing on different records as well, signing up to not just PRS but PPL as well, that helps get you a nice quarterly income. There's a particular scene of musicians that play in the West End, and their way of playing music is by literally reading music, so literally having the dots there. I think it's important for any musician to be able to read music, even if to do it 10, 15 minutes a day. It's a muscle you just have to keep developing, and it really helps because musicians make good money from just reading, I finished my piano grades and then I just started teaching locally. For me, education, it kind of makes everything full circle, because especially as a jazz musician, being able to pass on that knowledge as well is important to me. I would say to any upcoming musician, just keep at it, keep doing what you're doing, and things will happen, if you just stay committed. Whatever situation you step into, be professional and make sure your head is not too big to fit through the door, My focus has always been on the music, and everything else falls into place, and that would be my my advice to younger musicians, always focus on the music first.
Here are some final tips. You don't need to focus on all of these things at once. Pick 2 or 3 and focus on these first. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Also, don't rely on one area of income. We all learnt during the pandemic that those musicians who only relied on live music for their income found it a lot harder than those musicians who had multiple sources of income or multiple revenue streams. In our next video, we're going to look at how to release your music. If you haven't watched any of our other videos, you can check them out on our YouTube channel, Abram Wilson Charity. Remember to click and subscribe below, and you can also sign up to our newsletter at abramwilson.com. See you at the next video.